Oh boy, two big games coming up this week, and here is John. Let's just try and get him off the phone as soon as possible. I need to focus on Inter Milan and Arsenal. Look, John, I know you probably want to talk about these big games. I already know we need to win them both. I'm focused on Inter Milan, and then I'm going to focus on Arsenal.
Good, because I bought you here to win the quadruple. So make sure things go to plan, especially against Arsenal. Jurgen's enjoying his holiday, let's keep it that way. Capiche?
Yep, loud and clear, boss. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 12 of Quadruple or Nothing with Liverpool here on the FM23 Beta on Shaun Does the FM. I hope you are doing well, and coming up in today's episode it is a big one, two big games. First off, the first leg of the round of 16 in the Champions League as we travel to take on Inter Milan at the San Siro, and off the back of that we play our first final of the Sabres. We do look to keep our quadruple hopes alive, and that will be against the team currently second in the Premier League, Arsenal, at Wembley. So if you are looking forward to today's episode, the biggest one so far of the save, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying this series here on the channel, also remember to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. It is greatly appreciated. But first things first, today we are going to cover off the Premier League games that we have played off the back of yesterday's episode, which was the semi-final against Chelsea in the EFL Cup. If you did miss that one, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. It did also include transfer deadline day in January, where we did make a signing, so definitely an episode which is worth checking out. We have played 4 games off the back of this. We're just going to recap them this time instead of show you guys the highlights to hopefully make these episodes just that little bit shorter and quicker to get through. But as you can see, not overly convincing performances in the Premier League for the most part, but we have still won all of our games since you were last here. First off, we picked up a 1-0 win away against Leicester. Ricardo Pereira did pick up a red card there late in the first half. Darwin Núñez did score a goal with around about 20 minutes left, also missed a penalty, which could have really put that game to bed, but thankfully we did still hold on for a 1-0 win. Then off the back of that, we actually rotated our team quite a bit at home as we did take on Brentford and still picked up quite a good 4-0 win here, probably our best performance in that most recent. Block goals to Thiago, a double to Luis Diaz, as well as one to Mohamed Salah. Then we took on Crystal Palace. This is a game where we really got out of jail late. Wilfred Zaha gave them the lead at the 48-minute mark. Then we got a goal back through Thiago, a good strike from outside the box with 10 minutes left. And then in injury time, once we changed our system to a 4-2-3-1 to go that little bit more attacking, it was Darwin Núñez who put the ball over the line for a header, and we escaped from Selhurst Park there with a 2-1 win. Definitely a game where it looked like might be our second loss of the Premier League season. Off the back of that, we travelled to take on Brighton and then picked up a fairly comfortable 3-1 win here. Goals to Jota, Matip and Carvalho in the first half. They got one back in the second half through Trossard, but thankfully that was about it for that game. We did the job in the first half and picked up a 3-1 win, as you can see yet again, with quite a rotated team leading into these big 2 games coming up in today's episodes. What that does do for the Premier League table before we do get stuck into the other competitions. In today's episode, we are still on top, but these days, 16 points clear of Arsenal, albeit they have 2 games in hand, but already it does look like with just over 10 games to go in the Premier League season, it is a 2-horse race between us and Arsenal, and even then, they probably need to keep on picking up the points in those games in hand, and we will need to drop a fair few points, I think it is fair to say, if we are not going to pick up that Premier League title. But we are taking on Arsenal in the second game of today's episode. If we go over and have a look at what happened in the semi-finals of the Carabao Cup, of course, Arsenal did pick up a 2-1 win in the first leg, but as you can see, Man City did win the second leg there by 4 goals to 3, so that meant it was 5 all on aggregate, but Arsenal did win a penalty shootout, and that is why they are our opposition in the second game of today's episode. A very tasty clash, that one. We bet them earlier in the save, the first game, in fact, of the Premier League season at the Emirates by 5 goals to 1, albeit that was off the back of a red card to Zinchenko from memory quite early on as well. So this could be a little bit different with a little bit of confidence in that Arsenal team as we do take them on here in this EFL Cup Final, first versus second on the Premier League table. But before then, we do need to get stuck into the knockouts of the Champions League. And first up for us, we do take on Inter Milan at the San Siro. There you can see the results so far from the other first legs in the round of 16 in the Champions League. But Inter Milan are our first opposition in today's episode. And these days, they find themselves on top of Serie A. So it is a top of the leagues clash here, Italy versus England. And they're definitely a team that needs to be respected with Simone Inzaghi in charge, players like Brozovic, Skriniar, and Lautaro Martinez at the club, as well, of course, as Romelu Lukaku as well. So it's a strong Inter Milan team, one that certainly needs to be respected, but hopefully in this away league, we can grab a decent result to take into the second leg at Anfield, which will probably show you guys in tomorrow's episode. One thing to consider, though, going into these games in today's episode, still a little bit of an injury cloud hanging over us. Quite a few of the players who were injured in yesterday's episode have recovered, or at least started to come back from their injuries. As you can see, the only real issue with this team compared to what it usually would be is the fact that we are having to start our new signing, Kefrem Fulham, in the box-to-box midfield role. He does look like a really, really promising player, and because of that, just favouring him in that role slightly over Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain at the moment, and that is because still Jordan Henderson as well as Jude Bellingham are out with injuries and won't feature in either of today's games. So at least in this Champions League one, if we can take something useful, even a draw, into that game at Anfield in tomorrow's episode, that would not be the worst thing, because I'd expect Jude Bellingham to be back in time for that game, or at the very least Jordan Henderson, which will just add to our midfield stocks a little bit. Also, Diogo Jota picked up a minor injury since dual last year, but he should be fine for that second game of today's episode. And also, both of our left backs are fit, albeit they have both been under an injury cloud recently. Kostas Tsimikas, of course, hasn't featured over the last few episodes. These days he has recovered, but also Andy Robertson picked up an injury in that most recent stretch of games, but thankfully has just recovered in time for the first leg of this Champions League round of 16 games. So for the most part, it's our first choice 11 these days. Ibrahima Konate, we are starting over Joel Matip because his form just too good to deny, especially from set pieces. He is looking like a very dangerous threat there, albeit usually he's playing in the place of Virgil van Dijk on the left-hand side, but hopefully he can do a job alongside him out on the right-hand side. But as I said, this is pretty close to our best available 11 when everyone is fit, albeit just that box-to-box midfield role where Jude Bellingham would usually be. But hopefully our new signing can do a good job in there, and we'll come back shortly for the first game of today's episode in the Champions League graphics and music as we take on Inter Milan in the first leg of the round of 16 from the San Siro. And with the Champions League music, here are the team sheets for this one. Inter are playing 5 at the back and then quite narrow in terms of their attacking players, but that front two in particular, very dangerous. Martinez and Lukaku, we look like we did as we showed you before on the tactics page, and hopefully we get something to work with in the away leg to take into tomorrow's episode. And about halfway through the first half of our first highlight of this one, it is a goal kick here to Inter Milan so far. We've started to get the edge in terms of the stats and shots off in this game, but no highlights up until this stage, and Inter Milan pumped this deep through their goalkeeper, but Trent is there to tidy things up, albeit plays that one back to Alisson Becker. Hopefully we can get off to a good start here in Italy, and it might give us a chance if we can do a good result here to rest some of our better players going into that EFL Cup Final. Great chance there for Darwin Núñez, but it's an absolutely shocking finish and still 0-0 at the 25-minute mark. And that was the lone highlight of that first half, so 0-0 going into the second one. Quite a quiet game so far, as you can see. Slightly edging things in terms of the stats. Luis Diaz picked up a yellow card also on a 6.4, so he might be a player who we take off early in the second half, as well as Andy Robertson coming back from that injury, but we'll get things back underway with no changes, still locked up at 0-0. And just a minute into the second half, we have our first highlight, so hopefully a bit more action on this side of half-time, and an early free kick here. Thiago on the ball, plays that back to Fabinho in a bit of space. Nice ball over the top there from Mo Salah. Apparently onside, and he beats Onana there, past his near post into that top right corner, and the Egyptian King gives us our first goal in the knockout stages of the Champions League this season. Fabinho given all the time in the world here to pick out a pass. It does look like he might be offside there, but maybe the centre-back on the other side was playing him on. It must have been the case because they're not even going to check with VAR for that goal, albeit now we do see the lines, and as you can see, it's actually a perfectly timed run. Indeed, the marker who was on Darwin Núñez plays him onside, and we grab a 1-0 lead here early in the second half. And just past the hour mark, we are going to make our first few substitutions of this game. Robertson and Luis Diaz definitely need to come off. Diaz not on a good rating, also a yellow card, and Robertson coming back from that injury was only recommended for around about an hour anyway, so those are 2 subs. Also though, Trent Alexander-Arnold down to a 6.4 as well, so I think those are the 3 subs we are going to make here. Luis Diaz, I think what we might do is actually bring on Harvey Elliott for him, of course, with no Diogo Jota on the bench today, and that does mean that Mo Salah can switch out to the left-hand side, should be good in that inside forward role. And in terms of the wing-backs, pretty simple there. It will be Tsimikas coming on for Andy Robertson and also Joe Gomez for Trent Alexander-Arnold. Still 1-0 up with a half hour left. And shortly off the back of those substitutions, we do have a free kick here, which Harvey Elliott puts into the mixer. Darwin Núñez with a header goes just wide of the post, and still 1-0 Liverpool. And just about to enter the last 10 minutes of this game, still 1-0 up, but we're going to make a few substitutions here. Apparently, Thiago should be coming off. It did look like before he went down to a red card, also quite an injury-prone player. So we'll take him off for Curtis Jones. Also, Núñez only going okay today. Roberto Firmino will come on for him. Still 1-0 up with 10 minutes left. And we are entering injury time in this one. 4 minutes of added time, albeit just as I thought this one might be all done. We are in position there. There's our new signing, Fulham. Tries to play a ball forward there for Firmino. Harvey Elliott gets the rebound, but unfortunately, a slide tackle does take possession off him. And now Inter Milan, lovely pass there from Henrik Mkhitaryan. And maybe we should have been time wasting in the later stages of this one, because I wasn't. And Inter Milan have grabbed a goal late in injury time, albeit well inside the 4 minutes that they did put up on the sideline. Lukaku, lovely ball forward there to Mkhitaryan, and Lautaro Martinez, too much pace, gets in behind Virgil van Dijk, and Inter Milan there do grab an equaliser at home. A bit of a dagger blow, and that will be full time, albeit not the worst result. Of course, we are still going back to Anfield for that second leg, which is probably coming up in tomorrow's episode, and especially if we can get someone back like Jude Bellingham for that game. Quite an even game, but to lose a win like that in the 3rd minute of added time, a little bit disappointing. Definitely a game where we could have picked up a 1-0 win, but hopefully that gives us a little bit of a wake-up call going into the Carabao Cup final coming up against Arsenal. We'll tell them that we will learn from that experience and hopefully not concede like that again, but we draw the first leg of our Champions League round of 16 tie against Inter Milan, so things are evenly poised going into the second leg of that one, as I said, probably coming up in tomorrow's episode, but we'll be back shortly for the first final of this save in the Carabao Cup as we take on second place in the Premier League, Arsenal. And here are the team sheets for this Carabao Cup final. In terms of our starting 11, we are exactly the same as we were for the first leg of that Champions League tie against Inter Milan. One change on the bench though. Diogo Jota makes his way back onto that, having recovered from his injury there at Arsenal. Interesting to see Matt Turner is in goal for this one, but apart from that, looks like quite a strong team. They are in the dark uniforms today, and hopefully we can pick up our first trophy of the save and keep the quadruple hopes alive. And 10 minutes into this one, the first highlight, free kicker in a dangerous area to Arsenal, albeit good header clear there for Thuram, and Luis Diaz here with a great chance to get us on the counter-attack with a little bit of an overlap. Plays that to Thiago, plays that forward to Luis Diaz. Great save there from Turner, and Darwin Núñez forces another really good save there out of Turner, and it is still 0-0 here somehow after 15 minutes. And 10 minutes off the back of that first highlight, it's a free kick to Arsenal in a very similar position, albeit this time Gabriel does get his head on the end of it, but thankfully straight into the arms of Alisson Becker, and maybe this highlight is also going to be in our favour, albeit not too encouraged by the fact that we are giving Arsenal free kicks in dangerous areas. Great chance there for Darwin, but just puts that the wrong side of the post. Definitely the best chance so far of this game. Yet again, dangerous area for a free kick there to Arsenal. This time comes off the post, and thankfully we clear that away. So all action here in the early stages of this one, especially in terms of free kicks to Arsenal, but thankfully none of them overly threatening until that most recent one. Then a free kick for us, which Trent forces a good save there out of Matt Turner. Was looking for that top left corner. So far, I think it's fair to say we have had the slight edge in this one. Now a corner which Kanate handballs off of, and coming up to the half-hour mark, it does remain 0-0 here at Wembley, albeit yet another highlight here, so a big flurry in between the 20 and 30-minute mark, and Arsenal here get a chance to play out from the back. Nice ball this time out there for Martinelli, who did grab a goal in injury time to take that semi-final into extra time. They get a header off from Tomiyasu, but that one quite comfortably wide, and it is 0-0 just past the half-hour mark. But yet again, another highlight here, this time a throw-in down the other end. Luis Diaz inside the box. It's a bit of a poor ball. Mo Salah, though, for Trent Alexander-Arnold. Tight angle, but it comes crashing off the post. Fulham will head that back into the mix, but Arsenal will get the chance here to clear things. Time to breathe. Still 0-0 just past the half-hour mark. And that is half-time here in this Carabao Cup final. A flurry of highlights there in between the 20 and 30-minute mark. We probably should have scored a goal in amongst those. As you can see, we're slightly edging things in terms of stats, and especially XG. And I think that was reflected in the highlights. We saw the biggest chance did come to Darwin Núñez, just put it on the wrong side of the post. We'll tell them we're not happy, but I'm actually not too disappointed with that first half performance, as long as we grab a goal in the second half here, as we get things back underway, locked up at 0-0. And 10 minutes into the second half, we're going to make a few substitutions here. Two players have dropped down to some poor ratings. Ibrahima Konate on a 6.4, so Joel Matip will come on for him. Also Robbo, not on a great rating, still coming back from that injury as well. So Kostas Tsimikas can come on for him. 35 minutes left and still 0-0. And shortly off the back of those substitutions, the first highlight of the second half is going to be a corner to Arsenal, which Fabio Vieira is going to take, puts this into the mix of Virgil, heads it clear, albeit they find a lot of space there on this near side, and it is Albert Thumbi Lokonga who fires that into the top left corner, and Arsenal, kind of against the run of play here, take a lead in the Carabao Cup final, and already we might be in a little bit of trouble trying to win the quadruple. Good header clear by Virgil, but unfortunately no one really there on that side to mark, and Lokonga, very nice finish there into that top left corner, and that makes it 1-0 Arsenal. And up to the 66-minute mark, it's a free kick here for Mohamed Salah. That one does just go wide of the post, not quite as accurate as Trent's from earlier. And off the back of that, I think it is time for us to make some substitutions. Thiago has gone down to a red heart. I think we might just try Curtis Jones in his place, and as well as that, Luis Diaz. Only on a 6.5 today, we do have Diogo Jota available to us. So we'll make those two substitutions and leave the rest as it is for now, as we start to enter the last 20 minutes, 1-0 down. And with just under 10 minutes left, it is still 1-0 to Arsenal here in this Carabao Cup final. We are going to take off Darwin Núñez for Roberto Firmino, just see if he can do something off of the bench. And as well as that, I think it is time for us to start fiddling with a few things tactically here. We'll put both of our wing backs on attack instead of support. And I think what we might do is what worked against Crystal Palace to grab that late win. We will switch to a 4-2-3-1. I think Thuram and Fabinho will be the holding midfielders, and Curtis Jones can play as a shadow striker. And hopefully that means that we can get something going here in the last few moments of this game. We'll also tell our goalkeeper to distribute quickly as well, and just see if this does anything, because otherwise the quadruple already is dead and buried. Just 10 minutes left and we are still 1-0 down. And we are entering injury time in this game, and unfortunately it doesn't look like anything is going to change. We'll just change our mentality here to attacking, but already in our first final of the save, we are not going to win the quadruple because Arsenal have defeated us in the EFL Cup Final. And that was not how things were supposed to go. Fair play to Arsenal. They've been second in the Premier League for a long time. But that kind of kills off the name of the save nice and early. We are still alive in the other three competitions, in a really good spot to win the Premier League. But hopefully that doesn't give Arsenal a little bit of a kick and try and make them close the gap on us. Hopefully we still maintain that gap and can maintain our form off the back of this result. But maybe we need to change the save to treble or nothing now, because that was definitely not part of the plan. Arsenal beat us in the Carabao Cup final by a scoreline of 1-0. Looking at the stats, it was actually a very even game by full time. You could argue that Arsenal actually had the better of things, albeit our XG was a little bit higher. But as you can see, they had a lot more chances from corners, and in the end, that is kind of how they got that goal, through Sambi Lokonga. And unfortunately, none of our players played well at all. A few of Arsenal players did play very well, most notably in their defence, and we lose our first final of the save, albeit you could argue our second one off the back of the Community Shield earlier this season, and no more quadruple because we lose it to Arsenal in the Carabao Cup by 1-0. So that puts pay to the idea of the save pretty quickly, unfortunately, in February, and we can no longer win the quadruple off the back of Arsenal beating us in that Carabao Cup final. I suppose these days it will be treble or nothing. Hopefully we can still win something and it doesn't actually turn into nothing, especially the Premier League, considering how good of a position we have put ourselves in that competition. We get £50,000 off the back of that loss. Roberto Firmino has not scored for a long time, 7 games, so maybe shouldn't have brought him on for Darwin Núñez late in that final, but to be fair, no one was playing that well for us. Good chance for Darwin in the first half to grab a goal, but unfortunately put it wide. And if we got that goal, I think we might have gone on to win that game, but unfortunately Arsenal have defeated us, and now we go in search of the treble. I suppose if you're going to lose one of the quadruple competitions, the Carabao Cup is probably the one that you would pick, with the other 3 competitions, I think it is fair to say, having a little bit more meaning to them. But that will do it for today's episode. Unfortunately, it will not be a quadruple here at Liverpool in this beta save. Now our attention does turn to the treble. Maybe we'll rename the series Treble or Nothing, albeit all my intro graphics say quadruple, so we'll see what we do with that one. But we'll come back tomorrow, give you guys an update on what is happening in the FA Cup and in the Premier League, albeit the 3 games that we are playing in between now and then all do look very, very winnable. Burnley from the Championship in the 5th round of the FA Cup, then Nottingham Forest and Bournemouth in the Premier League, and we'll come back and hopefully stay alive in the Champions League, 1-1 going into that second leg against Inter Milan at Anfield. But that will do it for today's episode. As I said, unfortunately, no chance now of a quadruple, but if you enjoyed watching me suffer, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying this series here on the channel, also remember to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. And until tomorrow for the second leg of that Champions League round of 16 tie against Inter Milan, thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers. Oh God, John's going to be angry, isn't he? Oh dear. Oh.